I guess you peasants like having jobs and like getting paid and, like being able to feed your families. So maybe we won't take that away.
This is Basic AF, episode 86. Show notes for this episode can be found at basicafshow.com/86. In this episode, we're going to talk about the changes taking place at Apple. Bill McLean is back. We're going to talk about AI stuff, workflows, what works, what doesn't, what's next. And there's the Doomer. Hello, Jeff.
Good morning, Tom.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. How are you? Little snore for the
doing great.
Snorers. Good. Yeah,
doing great.
I'm doing well. I'm doing quite well. I'm
good.
Pleased to say.
All right, and welcome back to the show, Mr. Bill McLean. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for having me back. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And so we finally got an announcement from Cupertino. No surprise, it fell right in line with all the rumors and speculation. As
White smoke.
White smoke. Yeah, that was funny.
It was.
I don't know if you saw that post or not, but that was pretty good. So Tim Cook,
white smoke,
is going to be stepping down of sorts, not going anywhere. He's going to be on the board as the executive chairman. And then John Ternus, who has been at Apple for ages, will ascend to the CEO. He's been running hardware engineering, so he's going to become the CEO. That's all effective September 1st, so day before my birthday. So,
woohoo, happy birthday.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think? We're only going to spend a couple minutes on this, but
yeah. I think we all knew it was coming. Something was coming. I'm not really that familiar. I don't know if either of you are, but I'm not really that familiar with John Ternus. He probably showed up in a couple of videos that I, ignored the man and paid attention to the hardware. But, we'll see. My only concern always is, whether or not the culture of, I'll put this in air quotes, we protect your data. We're not selling you off to the highest bidder, whether that remains a feature of the Apple universe. I expect it will, but as you call me, Tom, I'm a doomer. And I'm not always certain that any tech company, including the one I love, is always going to be faithful to me.
I'm going to nominate you for the most anti-tech podcast co-host of the year award.
I think so. I told you I'm an artisanal tech guy now. I'm gonna
something.
I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live in the woods, away from the internet, and that'll be me. But whatever.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting transition because hardware doesn't seem to be a problem for Apple.
Right.
The choices that they've been making, the products are always high quality.
And software side.
Some software improvements across the board and across my favorite built-in apps like Notes and Reminders and Calendar. But I'm hopeful. Yeah. I think he's a good choice.
Yeah, everybody says he's product guy, so maybe that'll help.
I was going to say, I think there's something to be said for the fact that he, since Apple does killer hardware, he'll maybe help the software side to rise to the same level as the hardware side. So we shall see.
Yeah, it seems we've been beating that drum for a long time too. Like hardware teams are crushing it, and software's.
Yeah, my hands are pretty calloused from beating the drum.
So a lot of good, but still some weird stuff.
Yeah, so we'll see. We shall.
More on that as we progress.
I have plenty of time to talk about this and to see where it takes us at some point in the very near future.
Indeed. All right. Well, this is where we say goodbye to Jeff. And
I'll be here.
Kind of the meat of this episode is going to be a check-in on AI stuff, primarily what we're using it for, where we've found some success, where we've had some issues, good, bad, that kind of thing. So that's why we had Bill come in. I know he and I have been in messages pretty heavily for least a couple of months, it seems, about our stuff we're doing. So I wanted to have him come on because I know he's been kind of kicking the tires on it a good bit too. So Bill, do you want to...
Actually, I was going to say before we start, why don't we talk about the platforms you're both using? I will say if I'm using AI at all, it's Claude. Why don't you tell us what you're standardized on and why, and then we'll go into the workflow stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty much Claude for me as well. I have the yearly pro subscription for Claude. We'll get more into whether it's gotten smarter or not recently, but I'll put it this way, if I don't like the answers that it's giving me, I'll go to Gemini. I have a Gemini, whatever they call it, subscription as well, because it came with 2 terabytes of Google Drive storage. That was the main reason I got it. Just happens to have Gemini Advanced or Ultra or whatever. The plans are also nonsensical at this point. It's hard to even keep up, but Claude and Gemini are the 2 that I use the most.
Yeah, same here for me. Gemini at work, because that is our quote-unquote sanction tool. So I use it there. It's pretty good. I don't like the interface much. It's typical Google interface, not very exciting. Not that a chatbot really needs to be, but it has some things I'm not too crazy about. But the outputs and everything have been pretty good for what I use it for there. And then you got to use ChatGPT, the pro account, the $20 a month account, and used that for a good while. And then shifted over to Claude recently, the Claude Pro account, so $20 a month.
Why did you drop ChatGPT?
So I started to look at Claude as they started to, people were starting to talk more about it with Code and Co-Work. And so I started to tinker with it a little bit. Like I had a pro account for both for a while, and I dropped Claude. But ChatGPT started getting worse for me for what I was doing. Like it was just kind of, it's not that great. And so I went over to Claude, and for a while there, I was running the same things in both to try to just compare and contrast and see. And so I just kind of like the output's a little bit better over there. And so eventually I was like, well, I don't want to pay for both. And I still use ChatGPT a little bit here and there, but not much. And again, that's as of today. I mean, it's as Bill said, they change so much. Like they tweak things, and then now this one's crap, and this one's good, and you go back. So, and it's changing a lot.
Bill, did you use ChatGPT?
I did. I had a pro subscription for a while. One of the main reasons was you could connect it to Apple Shortcuts,
right,
and run things inside of Shortcuts, prompting through ChatGPT Pro. I'm once again more hopeful that Apple Intelligence and new Siri and new Gemini isn't just total garbage when it finally comes out. So for the most part, though, I didn't find that integration as useful as just copying and pasting stuff into and out of the chat windows.
Got it. All right. Onward. Sorry. I just wanted to kind of get a lay of the land before we talked about your automation. Go.
Yeah, I think there's so much to talk about. And Tom, you mentioned Claude. Claude has just, we'll call their main chat window. I'll call that one Claude. Then there's Claude Code that originally started in Terminal, and now I've lost everybody in the audience because this is the biggest problem with AI tools right now is like a normal person doesn't know what Terminal is, isn't going to open it, isn't going to ever use this tool. Mainly for developers to help with making applications or other tools that involve coding, hence the name Claude Code. And Claude Co-Work now exists in the app as well. That's effectively Claude Code with a UI. So it has all the same abilities. It's running inside of a folder on your machine and can do things like computer use and tool use. It has a Chrome plugin, for example, that you can tell it to go browse the open web and pull data for you if you want. And it can pretty much do anything that a human can do on the computer now.
Do you do much of that, Bill?
I a fair amount, actually.
Okay.
I set up, so you can also do, one of the things I loved about ChatGPT 4 was recurring tasks. And I had set up a thing that basically scraped the tech websites that I like looking at, The Verge, 9 to 5 Mac, any of the rumor sites and news sites, and would pull a report for me and put that into an Apple Note or a Bear Note at the end of the day and say, like, here's the top 5 articles that were published so I could take a look at it. Somewhere along the line, ChatGPT got rid of recurring tasks. Again, no warning. It's just like, here's a new model. And by the way, I don't do the thing that I've been doing for you for the past 3 months.
It seemed like bad timing to do that because that's right around when like the Claude stuff was starting to take off.
Yeah, Co-Work does this now. And most recently what I've had it do is go in and look at my YouTube analytics data. So I gave it access to Chrome, go into YouTube, pull the analytics data. I had some specific questions about posting my podcast on my channel. And like, is it impacting the views on either the podcast or the main videos? And is there data that could back this up? So it went and pulled a bunch of data for me out of YouTube analytics and gave me an answer. And so it's kind of useful for that sort of thing, but it was also extremely frustrating at the same time because it doesn't work exactly on its own yet. You can't just kind of set it and forget it. You have to babysit it through every little step, which is the most annoying part about AIs as it stands today, I think, is the marketing hype is in many instances not living up to what the tools can actually do in reality.
A stunning development, if I say so myself. Yeah, that's kind of where I've gone too. And just to say, like, we talked about Co-Work a little bit and running on your computer. One of the distinctions there is in the chat window, right? The typical chat window where it's back and forth interactive. You can pick up any device that you're logged into and see those chats. So those kind of go with you. They're mobile. But with Co-Work, everything kind of stays local to that machine that you're running it on, depending on where you put that folder. Because what it will do is you can run your projects and then you can select a folder for it to work into. And that's one of the differentiations between them is, so with Co-Work, you can give it a folder full of stuff and say, analyze all the data in these spreadsheets or reorganize these files. Maybe you've got not saying I have this, but maybe you have 873 screenshots on your desktop and you want them to be renamed by what's inside them. You could turn it loose on that folder and it would analyze them and name them, and you could give it some type of a structure as well. And then the tasks stay in that Co-Work section as well. I've got one similar build to what you were talking about where I set it up to go out and check, kind of the same sites, Mac Rumors and so forth. And I asked it to look on the site, or particularly with Mac Rumors, because there's comments, a lot of comments, it's a fairly active community there, to say, when you're looking, check the comments to see like what the count is on there, to see how much engagement it's getting there. Because if it's getting a lot of engagement there, it's worth probably posting somewhere else and, trying to farm some engagement too, because that's the name of the game these days, engagement farming. But it also means it's of interest to people. So I've done that too. And also I've done some of that analytical type stuff. I did an interesting exercise, maybe it was last weekend or the weekend before, because now that I've kind of gone in with Claude and stuff, I have it help with some of the podcast work, some of my newsletter work. I don't really use Claude for work stuff, just because we don't have the data protections around it at work for like our sensitive data. So I don't use it there. So everything is kind of home and, side projects. But, I've done a lot with it. And so I went through and I said, because I'm kind of more visual, like I like to see things laid out like that. So I went and I was like, well, why don't you go ahead and build an org chart of all of the roles that I've had you perform since we've started working. And so it did. And it gave me this is kind of funny. It gave me 3 divisions. I have quite the empire I'm running over here. I have a content division, a marketing division, and an operations division. And inside the content division, I've got a podcast producer, newsletter editor, copywriter, content strategist. Marketing divisions, SEO manager, social media manager, growth strategist, analytics lead. And then in operations, it was a head of operations and an AI workflow engineer. And I found that very interesting because, there's more and more talk about, how is, AI going to be a force multiplier? And, we still don't know where we're going to end up with this. There's good and bad with everything. And so I do think on the positive side, one of the things that I did when, I had that SEO manager there in the marketing division, and all that is I said, go look at my website and help me optimize it for search engine optimization. I don't know jack about that. I don't want to know jack about that. And just Google Analytics is gross. I've signed into that and I'm like, yeah, this ain't for me. And so I went through that whole exercise and made some changes. Some of them I still have probably 50% left to do. But it got into, internal article linking, making sure your post titles are optimized for search and your meta descriptions and all that kind of stuff. So it was really helpful. And, the numbers are ticking up for me on the visits to the site and everything. It's still too soon to say, did it work? I don't know. It seems to be. It certainly knows more about it than I do. Is it 100% accurate? I'm sure it's not. But it was very helpful for that.
Yep. Jeff, what about you?
Tom sent me some of the SEO stuff for Basic AF, and I will say that one of them I thought needed a little tweaking. I know very little and care to know very little about that kind of stuff either. I'm not particularly interested. In fact, I will say that I feel like SEO descriptions are very bland. I know what they do, but there's nothing particularly insightful or clever about them. So, and I will say that one of the descriptions that it put up, I didn't feel I needed to edit at all. I thought it was pretty decent, and so that is actually what we're using as show description right now, and we'll see if we get any of that. I patronize Tom. I'll look at the stuff that he sends me and go, "Oh, that's really cool." And then, as I often do, sit back down and write stuff with a pencil.
There's something to be said about that, and that's joking aside, right? The whole AI space is like one big caveat right now.
Yeah.
I mentioned to somebody the other day, it's like simultaneously one of the coolest pieces of technology that we've ever invented and also the dumbest thing we've ever invented at the same time. And then there's, a huge caveat in between all of that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of smoke around it right now, of how it's going to change the world. I mean, in some ways it is changing the world. If you look, Meta is laying off 8,000 people, I think they said, because of investments in AI. Now, whether or not that means, they need to burn cash on the AI side, and so they've decided not to burn cash on the human side. It's a fair question. It's not clear whether or not AI has given them any advantages in terms of what the AI is actually doing, or whether or not it's doing the jobs of those 8,000 people that are being jettisoned. So it definitely is going to have some implications. We won't talk politics, but there are things that I think, if in fact AI does take jobs, we have to look at what are people going to do. And there we go to my
new jobs.
New jobs, right? You just make up something, right?
Same as it ever was. They said the same thing with computing and the farmers and the tractors, and it's like, man, it used to take 3 weeks to farm an acre. Now it takes 30 minutes with the tractor. What are we going to do?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that, Tom. You're absolutely not wrong. And again, I'm not certain what it is going to do, but I feel like, I think what it's going to bring back, and I hope it does, is, your kid going to trade school and becoming a plumber or an electrician or something that cannot be presently automated away with AI. I mean, programming, come on. Claude Code, baby. Whether or not it does good code and whether it does well-documented code, anybody's guess at this point in time. But there are, a lot of the entry-level jobs that, people who went to school to, do anything in IT, whether it was, becoming engineers, software engineers, or things like that, those entry-level jobs feel like they're gonna be gone. So yes, go be a plumber. Not a data plumber.
Well, yeah, and I've had that kind of opinion too. We went, Bill and I were chatting about this yesterday. We went from, some people go to college to everybody's got to go to college, and the trades kind of fell out of, favor there. And I think that needs kind of an adjustment.
Totally.
Because you look at the debt that you incur when you go off to college, and over the long term, yes, you're probably going to get a good return on it. But, before it was more of a differentiator when, say 50% were going. I don't know the numbers. I'd have to look them up. But now it's like, okay, more people are going. So everybody's got the bachelor's. So that's kind of been commoditized. So now it's like, well, what are you going to do from there? But that's complicated. That's a whole different topic.
It is.
But,
it is. Right.
There are lots of pieces to that. But I have seen recently, and I've kind of gotten the impression, and Bill, I think you may too, but I'll let you speak to it. For one, the AI companies, like the big ones like ChatGPT and Claude, Jesus Christ, did they ever not take a PR class? It is like, could you find two more ridiculous sons of bitches to put out in front of people to try to tell people about your product? It's like, because the angles they're taking are just the absolute worst. And it's like that.
There is something refreshing about that. I just want to say there's something refreshing about these guys putting feet in their mouths.
It is, yeah, and it's like, oh my God, both of them, like the guy from Claude, the guy from ChatGPT, so Sam Altman and Dario Amodei, I think is his last name.
Yeah, that's what
have the two most punchable faces. And it's like, oh my goodness, you all. And it's like, so I see why public perception is in the toilet for a lot of this stuff, because it's like, yeah, we're going to take all your jobs and screw you guys. You can't do anything about it.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but you're also leading up to your IPOs and hyping the hell out of your stuff. And I don't know about you, but where I was going with that is the more I use it, the more I'm like, yeah, this isn't taking all the jobs.
Yep.
Because there's lots of stuff just for the simple things I'm doing, it just can't do. Like it, or you have to do it 3, 4, 5 times. And again, all in all, I'm a fan, cautiously, but because I think it does give a single person the ability to do much more than they could do before. Because we get into those, I just laid out that org chart a few minutes ago. That's all the stuff I'm trying to do to grow the newsletter, grow the podcast, so forth and so on. And again, it is AI, so we know it's not 100%. I can't afford to pay somebody to do these things, right? Like I can't afford an SEO manager or a growth strategist or a head of operations by any means. Yeah. I mean, I'm not making any money. And so I think there's some positive there that it could do that. Like, we've talked about, disenfranchise, people coming up with less opportunity. AI and some ambition, you can do quite a lot. And I think you're in a position to do more. It's going to require some work. You still need to be able to think, because if you just take it, and I think that's going to be a challenge. Well, the AI said it must be true. We need to avoid that.
I think that's a big problem. I've started coining the phrase outsourcing your thinking. And when you outsource your thinking to AI, I agree. I think that's going to be a big problem. And I'll ask a hypothetical question here. If you came up with a new technology and you needed to get mass adoption for it, you would all lead with the fact that you're not going to have a job anymore, and this thing might end the world.
Right.
Those are going to be the top two things that you pick as your marketing campaign. And like you said, I put this article from Ronan Farrow that was in the New Yorker. It's a big, profile on Sam Altman, like 17,000 words. It's well worth reading. He was also on the Decoder podcast. Basically, in 17,000 words, I can do it in 2 or 3, right? He's a liar. So there you go. Right?
There you go.
There's hundreds of interviews and thousands of hours. The guy spent a year and a half working on this article, and it's good to see. I think this is a well-written piece of objective journalism, and it's good to see that there aren't people just buying into the hype. There are still people asking the questions about, okay, this guy's now in charge of all of our future and has the potential to be one of the most powerful people on the face of the planet. Can we trust him? Should it be this guy? Right? These are questions we should all be asking as we go use
of any of these guys.
Of any of these guys, right?
Correct.
So,
your title is excellent. It's he's a liar asterisk with sources.
Right. Right.
We have citations and sources. Yeah. That article is quite good. And I think we can put an Apple News link to that because the New Yorker's free within Apple News. So we can put an Apple News link in, and you can read that, and highly recommend that you do. That's a really good article.
Yeah, and the polling numbers, Nilay Patel and Ronan were talking on the Decoder podcast, and well, we won't get into politics, but let's just say the polling numbers on AI, specifically for younger people, it seems like, Gen Z and below, the more that AI slop and other AI is pushed into their feeds, the less favorable it polls. And so, now OpenAI they've written a few documents where they're talking about changing the social construct, or the social document that, how people talk and think about AI. And so they're starting to walk back the messaging of, well, maybe it isn't going to take everybody's job. I guess you peasants like having jobs and like getting paid and, like being able to feed your families. So maybe we won't take that away. Maybe we'll spin the narrative to we're going to create more jobs and it's going to be like the next industrial revolution. And now it's so hard to tell what the truth may or may not be, other than, my experience is similar, I guess. The more I've used AI, the more I question, is what I'm doing useful? It's like a broad existential question now of like, if I connect Claude Code to my, Notes app, or Obsidian is the big one, Claude Code and Obsidian, and I give AI access to all of my notes, and I can have it search through everything and come up with the best, most optimized ideas for a YouTube video. I get those results and I look at them, and I liken it to when you set a New Year's resolution and you go tell everybody your New Year's resolution. What happens? After maybe a few days, you give up on your resolution because you posted on social, you told all your friends and family, you got the dopamine hit through telling people that you were going to do the thing versus actually doing the thing. And so I'm finding the same sort of thing with AI. It's like, great, I got a dopamine hit. They're like, yeah, all 5 of these video ideas would perform really well. But I didn't come up with them. I have no ownership over them, and I feel no obligation to go make them then. But it's like, wow, I felt accomplished. I chatted with an AI, Yeah,
and there's something to be said for, and I think that goes back to my half joking point about being an artisanal IT guy is part of the joy in any creative endeavor, whether or not it's, creating a podcast or writing a novel or doing theater. Part of the deal is the actual effort that you have to put in, the thinking of it, the conceptualizing of whatever it is that you're creating, and then the actual effort that goes into doing that work. It creates ownership. It creates it creates in you something that's different than getting an idea and then going, okay, let's do whatever the algorithm says. So I'm with you on that. Like I said, I don't love AI. I'm not opposed to AI in certain situations. But I still, sounds insane, I still love sitting down with my iPad and some copy or some work that I've just written and then refining that with an Apple Pencil. It used to be paper, but there is something very satisfying about actually doing the work. It's what I love about theater. Theater, a lot of people think, oh, it's because you want to be on stage and have people see you. No, dude, I want to actually collaborate with everybody else that's a part of this and have the opportunity to act and interact. And it's almost always the lead up to the actual performance that makes me happiest. And performance is just kind of like the cherry on top.
I will say I've gone back to just this week, actually, after crapping on iPad OS 26 for the past 3 weeks to Tom's demise. I've gone back to writing in the morning on the iPad because I still enjoy the the paper and pen thing, but the process becomes a little more cumbersome then. I do I'll scan the pages in so I can have them in Apple Notes, and then the text is searchable that way. So that's like the most enjoyable way for me to do it, is still write pen and paper and then try to make a digital copy so I can search my thoughts later. But the iPad is a pretty good close replacement, and I've sort of stopped my Notes app madness for the time being. For the next 3 days or 3 hours, I guess, and gone back to Apple Notes because of that, because the Apple Pencil and Apple Notes just work so well together.
Yeah, and that's still a great way for me to think through things too. I think for me, where the AI comes in handy is to take a look at larger sets of data, maybe from multiple sources, and then try and find out what relationships might be between those, what I might be able to determine, look at it from ways maybe I'm not. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But like the other day, like I was sent out a newsletter this week, and I was like, okay, well, I've got these couple of ideas that I want to do, and like it made what I thought was a pretty good observation. Like it's like, well, the last 3 have been kind of hardware focused, so maybe go with the one the idea you have for a tip. And so I went with the Notes tips this week because I had noticed that pattern. I wasn't paying any attention to it. Is that a huge monumental revelation? No, but I thought it was kind of neat that it did pick that up. And so, like, it was funny, Jeff will be amazed, but at work yesterday, I had a meeting with some people at our health professions program and I actually used my field notes in a pen, Jeff.
What? Wow. I love that for you.
I did. Left my laptop in the bag, wrote down the things. I did take a picture of it and put it in the craft note where all their other stuff is I'm working on. So I did that because I really like those that 1943 series they put out that you could use in any orientation. I really like that one. The copper one they did as like the second part of the subscription. I was okay really with cool that too. One. They were okay. But so, yeah, I did that. And I still like just doodling with the pencil on stuff just to kind of, think through things. That's still tops. But Bill, so right now, what are kind of your typical things that you're doing day to day still? Like, it sounds like you've ruled out some things as like, okay, this isn't working, and some of it's productivity porn where I'm sitting there and it's like, look how productive I am, or it's not any different really than if you're, looking through Reddit for topics or stuff. It's all procrastination really, but.
Yeah, the one thing, so Claude on the phone and on the iPad can actually interface with Apple Reminders. It can read and write to reminders. So one thing I did just yesterday was I took all of the handwritten notes from Apple Notes for the week, exported them to Markdown, and sent those into Claude and said, pull out all of the action items or as I'm writing, I come up with video ideas and I just kind of jot a note, says this would be a good video idea, and I asked it to pull all of those, it's like 5 days worth of notes, and put them into Apple Reminders, because there's a thing that I would never do. Right? I pretty much write in the journal. I treat this like a morning pages sort of practice, and then I close it. And unless I'm searching in Apple Notes, I may never see this page ever again, which is probably okay. But being able to take those actionable bits and pull them out, and then, it's obviously I was writing about it. It's something that I would be excited to go make then. It was an idea that I came up with. It's got kind of no AI fingerprints on it, was important. So I think that's one thing where we can look forward to a potential, Siri or Gemini integration inside of the Apple ecosystem that you can just, like, this stuff will just work. You can just turn notes into reminders. You can tell it to schedule reminders onto your calendar. You're not generating AI slop that way. It's like these small touch points and small things of friction that you could do manually, and might take you a little bit more time. But I think I've been saying that, context is the superpower. The more information it knows about you, which, Apple, hopefully they aren't sharing all this information with people, but, all this stuff is on your devices. It's in your iCloud. They have the most personal context of you probably than anybody other than Google. And so that hopefully gives them the ability to personalize these things in a way that they're actually more useful than going into a chatbot and getting the same, that's a great idea, as everybody else.
Yeah.
So
you're a genius.
Yeah.
The golden retriever effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned there, Bill, you've got, you've done some reminders and notes integrations. With your AI tool kind of, we'll say in the center, but not necessarily, but what applications do you have tied into yours at this point through MCP or APIs or other ways?
I guess reminders is one. Apple Notes kind of has an MCP. It doesn't work that well into Claude. I have I've been doing kind of an Obsidian side quest, I'll call it. Where
side quest.
What? That's how it goes, right?
No, right.
I was like, I'm going to use this so I'd done this before. I'd used Obsidian in the past. I did another thing where I was like, all right, everybody on X is hyping Claude Code and Obsidian. I have to go see, is this just hype or, is this valuable? So I spent 30 days with Obsidian, basically running Claude Code and Claude Co-Work inside of my Vault folder with various skills and kind of recurring tasks. So things like, I wrote this video, now I need a title and a thumbnail for it, or video description, whatever. Just like ancillary tasks to the YouTube channel that aren't necessarily like come up with the idea and I'll just, record a video word for word what you say, Mr. AI Overlord. And then Claude Code is an interesting one as a non-developer, non-technical software person, I'll say. I did use Claude Code to help me build my personal website. And this is another thing where, I've been saying AI doesn't have a normie solution right now. Like the normal distribution of the bell curve isn't picking up this tool to do something like this. But if you have a little bit of inkling of interest, I did replace my Squarespace subscription of $200 a year. We'll ignore the fact that I paid $200 a year for Claude in order to have it help me make the website. So there's some stupid tax in there, but the bill math works out to, I saved my Squarespace subscription and now I have a website that I made with the help of Claude that's a little bit easier to maintain, basically runs on markdown files. So when I have a blog post, I can kind of just write and push it to the site. The hosting is free. And so I thought that was an interesting use case where, Squarespace now went private a few years ago. They, in that transition, bought all of the Google domains infrastructure. So, they're now a registrar in addition to the place where you can build your website. And I was just never thrilled with their templates, and it's just clunky on how difficult it is to design and just run a basic function like a blog on their website. Mm-hmm. And so here's a guy in the basement who just replaced this. I don't know what their valuation is, hundreds of millions of dollars, $100 million company's sole purpose to create a website. I just defeated it with the help of AI in a few weeks.
Stuck it to the man.
Knowledge. Yeah. Screw you guys.
Come on over to Beehive, Bill. I'm waiting for you. Come on.
I know. And now I'm going to go, and then it's even worse. Now I'm going to go sign up for a $40 a month Beehive subscription, and $200 a year will seem like a great deal.
But you get a lot. Build that. You got to build out that email list. It's funny, speaking of websites, my son did that. He's in college and he spun up a little side business, and he's like, well, I need a website. So I was like, well, here, I'll buy you a Claude Pro plan, $20 a month. I said, do some marketing plans through it, but you could do your website through it too. And he'd never built a website, had no idea how to do it. And so he went into Claude, he did it, built it. He went to Squarespace because he got like a $72 for 2-year promotional thing or something. But it walked him through how to, get it into Squarespace. He's got his SSL all set up, blah, 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 blah. About 2 hours was all it took him. He'd never done it before, had no clue what he was doing. He just followed the steps and it actually worked. And so he was like, that's pretty cool. So he had done that. I've got MCP, so the Model Contacts Protocol, which allows you to kind of integrate other apps, web apps, services with the AI tool that you're using. It's usually pretty simple to set up. There's like a little URL you've got to drop in there, that kind of thing. So I've got only a few of those set up that I use. I've got one set up with Readwise and Reader. So Readwise we've talked about before. So that's the service where you can send your highlights you've made in books or Twitter posts or X posts that you've seen up to this service, and then they resurface in different ways. Reader is kind of their RSS feeds. You can plug those in there, but you can also send other things into it. So it's kind of like a read it later type thing. So I can interact with those highlights and everything like that. If I'm working on something, I've got it tied into Craft, which is my notes app of choice. Craft has their AI assistant. I used a little bit, but it burned through credits so quickly, and I was like, well, I'm not going to pay for more credits there, so I don't use that a whole lot. But Claude interacts with it pretty well. I don't do it a ton, but one thing I did do, like I went through, all of the things that I'd been working on, and you end up with you kind of work in fits and spurts, like everything else. It's like, okay, I want to work on, SEO stuff for a little bit. I'm going to work on content plan for a little bit, or, how can I grow the newsletter stuff? And so I'd done all these different things. And one thing that I did probably 2 months ago, like on a Sunday, I was like, hey, give me a review of everything we've worked on this week, what I've finished and what I've got outstanding. And that was pretty good because it kind of gave me like a very thorough list of, okay, you've done these, you've got these 6 things left. You want to work on one of these now, or you want to do it later or whatever. But eventually that list got fairly long. So I was like, okay, well, go ahead and put this into a project tracker in Craft using their collections, which is like a little database like in Notion or something. And it did a great job of that. Like it took them all, put them all in there. I had it, put a description on it. So if I looked at it later, I had at least some context of what it was for. It gave me custom fields for like it's for the podcast or the newsletter or whatever. So that all worked out pretty well. And what I like is you can pick those up at any time and work on them. But I can also, as I work on them, I can say, okay, we'll add that to the appropriate task in the project tracker, and it'll drop it into the note there. So I've got that history there as well. I have built a skill for the podcast. And so kind of the workflow there, which I'll do here probably in about half an hour, is, we record, come back after Riverside's process everything. I take the transcript, I download that, dump it into Claude and say, this is episode 86, build the podcast package for that. And what I've set that up to do is give me like 5 potential show titles that are optimized for search or whatever. Give me a nice description. Go out for any products or services that we've mentioned that we want to put in the show notes and grab the links. So it'll do that. But then I also have it kind of rate the content for repurposing. Like, is it, what type, is it evergreen content? Would it be retrospective? Those types of things. And so it'll kind of rate all the content for that. And then it puts it into the note in Craft when I'm done. So all that's been very good. I took a couple of courses for like writing stuff, and I watched a couple of YouTube videos. And so I took what I picked up from those, and I have built almost like a little editor in there, because my problem with writing is for 30 years now, all of my writing has been technical how-to at work, because it's like, and so it's very dry. Typically it's, here's how to reset a Mac for repurposing to a new person. Step 1, click this. Step 2, click that. Step 3, click this. And so I set up this quote unquote editor just to review it and say, okay, am I putting acronyms in that I haven't explained? Am I writing this so that it's, going to be somewhat interesting to somebody and not looking like a support article on Apple's website? Those types of things. So try to get a little bit of flavor, because I've done that for so long. That's just where I roll into is that type of stuff. And it's been pretty good about that too. So those types of things are where I tend to get the most use out of it.
Yeah, I've gone back to pretty much projects and skills. So this is where I landed. My side quest on Obsidian basically landed with the fact that I was actually getting better answers out of Claude with more context when I was using projects and skills than I was directly referencing notes within an Obsidian vault. And so, I guess at a high level, a skill is something that you do often. Like, you have a podcast, you run this package every couple of weeks when you do the podcast. Same with like a YouTube video title generation thing, right? I'm making a video. I want you to come up with titles. Inside of the project, I then have a bunch of, like analytics data. Here are titles and thumbnails that have worked well in the past. Here's the best performing videos on the channel. Here's the worst performing videos on the channel. Here's kind of I have like a writing and a style guide. This is kind of how I write things. This is how, I prefer things to be styled. I found that, those answers to be better, and that lets me, go back to using Apple Notes. So it was an excuse to switch tools again, which I love. And,
it's time for therapy, Bill.
Just write. Oh, we talk about this. Don't worry. I can write wherever I want. And, Apple Notes is pretty distraction free. I've been playing around with IA Writer, which is another kind of distraction free writing app that I like as well. So, my search hasn't completely ended, but, Apple Notes is like, it's the home for everything because it interfaces with reminders so well. That's really the connection I haven't been able to shake in any of these productivity conversations, Notion has a good AI built in now. It's annoying that you can't bring your own subscription, that I can't sign in with my Claude account. I have to pay Notion $20 a month too, and in addition to Claude $20. I'm not paying everybody in the known universe $20 a month. I already do that for Apple. So like Apple is the one. Get your AI together, and I'll pay you $20 a month for it.
I've got a link for you, Bill. You pay me $20 a month too.
So, yeah. I mean, the reminders and calendar connection, it just, I don't know. Since I left Fantastical, which used to integrate, my Todoist account and integrated reminders, Fantastical was the thing that got me hooked on having your to-dos on your calendar. I'm still not big on time blocking or anything like that, but I like being able to, wherever I am, look at the calendar app or the reminders app and know, okay, I might have one or two things that I have to get done today, and then a list of other stuff that are nice to haves. And that's been the only stable building block. Anytime I switch notes tools, I haven't been able to get rid of reminders and calendar, because if I do, I just feel totally disorganized to the point where I get nothing done. And I'll just chat with an AI and switch notes apps all day.
I will say the craft daily note and the calendar view off to the side is a pretty good combo.
Yeah.
For that, because I like that too. And so I'll have my things that I need to do for that day show up in the daily notes, and then on the left side of that, I've got the meetings and everything. And they've got kind of like a one-click create note for the meeting there, which then you can backlink to anywhere else you want it to go to. So, whole different conversation there, which I'm sure Bill would be happy to come back for.
I'm sure he would. Yeah. And with
in
that,
6 more
Bill,
months, I'll have a different notes app.
Yeah, I'm sure.
6 months.
Actually, in 6 months,
days.
6 months, you will have tried a different notes app and gone back to Apple Notes.
There you go.
3 or 4 times.
Yeah, exactly. So, Bill, first of all, thanks for coming on with us. Again, really appreciate having you here. Interesting conversation, even for those of us that barely give 2 rips about AI. Where can people find you and what it is that you're doing, and learn what particular notes app you're on at this particular moment in time?
YouTube.com/@Bill McLean, and there is a new notes app video coming soon. I'll say.
My gosh!
My adventures with Obsidian is in works. I'm going to package that up, and like I said, by the time I even get the video out, my thoughts have changed a little bit. So there we go.
So funny. Cool. Tom Anderson, where can we find you?
TomFAnderson.com is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter there, and then I'm at Tom Anderson on Threads.
Yep, you can find me at Reyes Point at various platforms. Post very, very, very little. Tom cajoled me into posting this last week, so I did it. I'm a good boy.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome, Tom.
We got 10 downloads that day because you posted.
I know, right?
Well,
right.
no, it's because you posted, but we did.
Yeah,
so
probably
all credit
because
to Jeff
I posted all 3 people that follow me on any of those platforms, like Blue Sky and Threads. We can be reached at feedback@basicafshow.com. And we do like feedback. As always, this gets said at the end, but rate us on your favorite podcast app. Apple podcast ratings really do make a difference. So if you can do that, we'd be greatly appreciative. You can send us voice memos and all sorts of other junk like that through through links that you'll find in the show notes, and there will be show notes on this. Once again, Bill, super grateful to have you along. And reminder that our show artwork, Random Art Design, music, Psychokinetics, and Celsius 7. And Tom, we've burned more than our usual 45 minutes, baby.
We did.
People must love us if they've stuck around this far.
Yeah, it's mutual. So.
Yeah, and we love you. Absolutely. I love
That's
you,
right.
Tom.
I know, Jeff.
Bill,
I know
we're
you
getting
did.
there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you in messages here in a few minutes. Everybody else, as we've said, we do appreciate you hanging out with us. And so we will talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Until then, have a great rest of your day or your night.
See you.